48 hours. Do not open the freezer door if you can avoid it. Pack milk, other dairy products, meat, fish, eggs, and spoilable leftovers into a cooler surrounded by ice. You may use the inexpensive styrofoam coolers.
To learn more, call the Health Promotion Unit at 266-3469.
Madame report is actually watching medicine to the Quick Care Pharmacy where Harry did with Sinclair, if you want to support and learning. It is how cafe Episa and not well my last 2 weeks. Episa. Harry report yes is true. Pisa money on Tipotla. Don't get him up to make a urine and see more 3 times a day. Madame Lily do urine Harry mew no medicine boost yep are you. And where's the prescription? It is me a posh mommy. What's the sense of buying that? Lemon copy say good time. No, you see the importance of going to your pharmacist, listening to your pharmacist, and having confidence in your pharmacist. FPS.plus will they place a higher premium on patient-pharmacist relationship than Quick Care Pharmacy Cote Halsbro just before the National Bank. Cote Quick Care is not just a quick fix. It's not just about tablets and spoonfuls. They've brought back the care into medicine. Whether it's a prescription or over-the-counter medication, the priority is your health. To take the right medication, the right amount for the right reason. Madam Harry, I see right in your medical book, next of kin, Henrietta Harry, movie farmer. By the way, is next of kin, her king, the Harry Ukakemo movie. All I want for you is good care. That is why I always recommend Quick Care Pharmacy because they help.
It's 8:30. Of course, since yesterday, a Tuesday, we've been following the story in Venezuela, where Venezuelan police used stolen helicopter in an attack on government buildings. Let's listen to that report, and we'll get a local perspective.
Tonight for a rogue police officer accused of attacking the country's Supreme Court today.
Let's go back to that.
Venezuelan authorities are on the hunt tonight for a rogue police officer accused of attacking the country's Supreme Court today. The officer opened fire on the Interior Ministry from a stolen helicopter before dropping grenades. President Nicolas Maduro has declared the attack an act of terrorism. RT's Brigida Santos has the story.
Officer Oscar Perez reportedly led the attack on government buildings in Caracas on Tuesday, flying a helicopter stolen from the La Carlota military base over the Interior Ministry and Supreme Court. From the air, 15 rounds were fired and 4 grenades were launched. At least 1 other passenger was seen in the helicopter during the attack, and more accomplices may have been involved. Perez, an officer in Venezuela's largest national police agency, is also a film actor, which might be why the bold attack looks like something right out of a Hollywood action movie. The disturbing events have stirred up confusion about his motives. Before the attack, Perez shared this video on social media.
We demand you, President Nicolas Maduro Moras, your immediate resignation together with your ministerial group and to immediately call for general elections. We have 2 choices. Be judged tomorrow by our conscience and the people, or begin today to free our people from this corrupt government. We are warriors of God, and our mission is to live, to serve our people. Long live Venezuela.
Some reactions from mainstream media in the West include this one from the Washington Post, in which the act is referred to as a, quote, protest flight. But President Maduro says the act is part of an ongoing coup attempt carried out by his enemies.
I've activated the Bolivarian Army Force to defend the right to tranquility. And be sure that earlier rather than later, we will capture the helicopter and those who did this armed terrorist attack against the institutions of the country. I condemn this terrorist attack, and I demand that the MUD, Table of Democratic Unity, opposition movement, to condemn this violent act.
No injuries were reported in the attack, and Perez has yet to be found. Since April, at least 75 people have been killed in violent clashes between government and opposition forces, with thousands more injured or imprisoned. According to social media reports over the past week, at least 3 people accused of supporting the government have been burned alive by masked militants. The country's economic crisis has left many people without food, scrambling for resources. Tuesday's attack is the latest and most disturbing example of the growing unrest. Some in the country accuse Maduro of staging the attack to justify increasing security crackdowns, and Maduro accuses the CIA of backing Perez and encouraging a coup. With the July 30th vote looming ahead, there is still no clear path to peace. In Los Angeles, Brigida Santos, RT.
Athy Mate is on the line with me at this time. Athy, it appears that the situation in Venezuela is taking a turn for the worse there, Arthie.
Good morning, Matt.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Good. A little worried about the events, especially in Venezuela at this time.
That's an understatement, Matt. We have to be grievously worried because if you looked at any of the newscasts, the international newscasts out of Venezuela, yesterday in particular, BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, every single one had the same story. It's the human side of the story that is actually most distressing because you're seeing people have no food, Matt. They actually are not able to find food, cannot afford food. There is no food in the shops, in the supermarkets. And also, the hospitals have no medicine. You saw pictures of doctors and nurses trying to keep patients alive by giving them what we call in Dominica drips, but there's no saline solution. And they're giving them pure water just to keep them alive. Now, this is happening in a country with one of the deepest resource pools in the world in terms of not just oil and petroleum resources, but water, forests, land resources. Venezuela is one of the richest countries in the world, potentially. And what bothers me and what worries me and what actually makes me even feel somewhat ashamed is that here we are. In fact, today, Dominica, quote-unquote, celebrates 12 years of the Petro-Carib Agreement, and the leaders of our government are going down to Jimit to hold a celebration of 12 years of Petro-Carib. I mean, Matt, this is not a coincidence. This is a divine message, basically telling us what are we celebrating? What are we celebrating? We owe Venezuela hundreds of millions of dollars, which they could definitely be using now to purchase food. And that is not happening. We are not paying Venezuela. We are withholding payment from Venezuela and have used the Petro-Carib money for political gain, led by my dearest friend, Reggie Austri. Reggie, you are the chairperson, you are the leader, the vice president, the vice chair of the Petro-Carib arrangement for how many years? You mean to tell me some of that money could not have gone into agriculture, into agro-processing, into fishing, and instead of leaving us 12 years later still at the stage where if we want to build a simple house for a Dominican, we have to go back to Venezuela and ask for a house, when in fact we owe Venezuela hundreds of millions of dollars? This is what is shameful and distressing. What is also shameful is that at the OAS, CARICOM was split in the position on Venezuela. You had countries led by Dominica, by St. Vincent and the Grenadines, taking the position that the OAS was intervening inappropriately by calling for the restoration of democracy in Venezuela. The Prime Minister of Jamaica and former Minister Golding of Jamaica came down, like a ton of bricks on the rest of us for saying, are you guys crazy? And they made a reference to the situation in South Africa. Was it wrong to call for the overthrow of the South African government under apartheid? For its complete violation of universal democratic principles? Did we not all come together and call for the removal of that regime by whatever means? Because a greater good was being trampled upon? So what then is the problem with Venezuela? Why doesn't CARICOM offer itself as a mediating group as opposed to standing on the sidelines and hiding behind the skirts and umbrellas of others? Why don't we take the lead? Why don't we take the lead in this? We took the lead in trying to get the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, put in place. These things are what are disturbing, Matt. And it's disturbing from a purely humane and humanistic standpoint. People are dying in the streets, not just from bullets. They're dying from starvation. They're dying from the fact that there's no medicine in for the simplest of diseases. We have some sense of what it is like to go to a hospital and not have paracetamol or even other basic drugs. But imagine that when there's no drugs at all, no machines working, nothing is working. That's the situation. So it's really a matter for we claiming to be leaders, claiming to have leadership, claiming to be global citizens, and yet when the real substantive challenge of providing global leadership comes over, we run and hide, and we are hiding behind the inequitability of withholding money from a starving people and still supporting the administration that is causing those people to starve. That cannot be right. That is not right. That is in violation of our most fundamental humane rights and human rights. Next week, the heads of CARICOM meet in Grenada. I wish it would have been possible for hundreds of CARICOM citizens to go to Grenada and surround that meeting and demand that our leaders do not leave that meeting until they come out with a sensible position on issues like Venezuela, on issues like terrorism, on issues like money laundering and corruption, that they should not be allowed to leave that meeting. But, the Caribbean people assemble for Carnival and Siwo and festival. We do not assemble, unfortunately, in the name of ourselves, in the name of our children, in the name of our grandchildren, and most important, we do a great disservice to our ancestors who confronted even greater odds than we are confronted with today and stood up and fought and overcame, and yet we who are beneficiaries of these struggles are in violation of the dignity of those struggles. That cannot be right.
Mr. Martin, it appears, and it's clear, Venezuela's crisis is now worse. It has turned from bad to worse. What can we do? Direct question, Marta. What can we do to assist? I mean, I'm really, given the pictures I'm seeing come from Venezuela, and Venezuela has given a lot of help in the past and maybe still giving. What can we do for the country at this time to help, to assist?
There's much we can do. There are civil society organizations still alive and well. They are the groups that have arisen to the challenge. Groups of women, groups of students, groups of professionals. I think in the same way, you remember what happened after Hurricane David and after Tropical Storm Erica? People sent food not just to the government, they sent aid directly to civil society groups like the Red Cross and others, who were then able to make sure that these supplies got into the hands of the most needy. We can do the same. Don't forget that a CARICOM member, Trinidad and Tobago, is within shouting distance of the shores of Venezuela. If we consolidated, if we shipped directly to Trinidad and Tobago food supplies, water supplies, medical supplies, if we did that into Trinidad and then reconsolidated and arranged for that stuff to be barged over, because it's a very short distance, and arranged for it to be received. Right now there are thousands of Venezuelans abandoning Venezuela and taking little boats across the straits from Venezuela into Trinidad. I just came from Trinidad last week. I saw them on the streets of Port of Spain. We could return that trade. We could reverse that trade by shipping to and working with Trinidad to consolidate food and medical supplies and work to get it into the hands of civil society, so that at least people on either side of the conflict could eat and help meet their basic needs. That's one thing we can do. Secondly, we could take advantage of the CARICOM heads of government meeting coming up next week and announce that we are prepared to send a team of mediators, not politicians. Politicians can't mediate. Get some of the fine, upstanding, thinking, people who have demonstrated the talent. Maybe former prime ministers. Maybe people like a Reverend Watty. Maybe people like an Irving Andre, and ask those people to comprise a mediating delegation, maybe under the aegis of the United Nations, to which we all belong, and say, look, we are going to sit down with all sides, and we are going to help all sides find a resolution, at least at the political level, to that crisis, so that they don't return or to the past, or don't go forward into a deeper hole. These are two concrete things that we in the Caribbean, we in CARICOM can do.
Thank you, Arthur Martin. I'll tell you what, because we're getting a lot of other phone calls at this time. I'm from a humanitarian point of view, I feel very worried about Venezuela. And Mr. Ambassador, Venezuelan Ambassador, please, swallow the pride and tell Dominica, tell the Caribbean countries, CARICOM, as Arthur was suggesting, what can we do to help from a humanitarian point of view? It's getting, look at your television, it's getting from bad to worse. We cannot pretend at this time.
Richest country in Latin America. But now,
let's listen.
Venezuela used to be the richest country in Latin America, but now it's falling apart. If you've turned on the news lately, you've probably seen stories about protests, food shortages, and massive inflation. So how did Venezuela go from this to this? Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves, and oil exports make up over 95% of the country's income. Meaning, if it doesn't sell oil, there's no money to spend. On top of that, Venezuela hasn't been taking good care of its oil facilities, and the state-run oil company hasn't paid its subsidiaries. So these companies started producing less oil, a lot less. The oil price has also plummeted, which leads us to the next problem: how Venezuela uses its money. Protesters claim Nicolas Maduro and his predecessor Hugo Chavez ran the country to the ground. In 1998, Chavez launched a political revolution with a new constitution and socialist economic and social policies, all boosted by high oil prices. He started redistributing land and wealth. He nationalized oil, finance, agricultural, and industrial companies. He fixed prices and devalued the exchange rate with the US dollar. These policies helped a lot of people, but with less money coming in, the system collapsed by the time Maduro took over. Now the country's down to its last $10 billion, of which $7.7 billion are in gold and can't be spent in a hurry. And it owes roughly $7.2 billion in outstanding debt this year. Because of all this, the country's currency, the Bolivar, has lost 99% of its value in the past 5 years. So for example, $100 of currency in 2012 would be worth just 20 cents in 2017. Inflation reached an all-time high with 800% in December 2016, and the IMF estimates it will go up all the way to 1,134%. Let me visualize that. That means that liter of milk that may have cost $1 before could end up costing roughly $11 by the end of this year. In a country where 80% of people live in poverty, that's just not affordable. And it makes things especially hard if you're a country that gets most of its food from abroad. Food and supplies have become so scarce as a result of inflation and price controls, they're being sold on the black market instead of in stores. With a large part of the country on the brink of starvation, food trafficking has become the biggest business in Venezuela. So Maduro put the military in charge of managing the country's food supply. But an AP investigation found that the military runs its own black markets and takes bribes from food importers. To be fair, there were shortages under Chavez too, but under Maduro, they became even greater. So great, in fact, that 3/4 of Venezuela's adult population lost an average of 8.7 kilos in the past year. People also have trouble getting their hands on life-saving medical supplies. The country is lacking roughly 80% of basic medical supplies, leading to drastic consequences. Venezuela is in the middle of a vicious cycle of bad policies and worse luck. It's been at the top of the World Misery Index for 3 consecutive years. So then, why is Maduro still in power? Venezuela's poorest haven't taken to the streets so far. They're afraid to lose some of the benefits they gained under Chavez. And Maduro's support base goes beyond just the poor. He has the military on his side because he's been keeping them happy by providing jobs, food, and basic supplies. Empowered by the support, he's been accusing the opposition of encouraging violence and training children for terrorist groups, which is what he likes to call the protesters. Now, he wants to create a popular assembly that can rewrite the constitution, and he declared a state of emergency. The opposition is afraid the assembly will be entirely made up of pro-Maduro parties, so they're calling for new elections and Maduro's resignation. Since April 1st, 2017, 67 people have died in the protests. Hundreds have been injured and thousands arrested. Mediating the standoff will be a tough mission, even for the Pope.
Very powerful report there from Al Jazeera. And we'll continue monitoring the situation in Venezuela. It's 8:50. We have a stop of the Muslim store coming up. Let's take a few phone calls and do that. Hello.
Yeah, good morning, Matt.
You
know, Matt, at the end of the day, if we so love our country, Maduro is presumed to be the problem of the country. Why can't Maduro just resign and free up Venezuela? Let Venezuelans vote a government of their choice, and then let the country move on. These guys, some of them rather dive their boots on. But I've got friends in Venezuela. We speak on a daily basis. Some of them want to run. They cannot run because they don't have visas. Some of them have aspirations for Europe. They can't go there. And it's the country in dire straits. The economy is very bad. Things are bad. And so, but you know the problem? We heard when the opposition leader suggested some time ago that the government put a package to assist Venezuela. They had the Venezuelan ambassador come forward and say Venezuela is not in crisis. And the man who mediates between country to country is the ambassador. So the ambassador now must come and tell us whether the situation has improved from the time he spoke or if it has gotten worse. And then to dictate to not only the Dominican government, but the Caribbean government or Caribbean countries that benefit from Petrocarib, put something together. But not early on, quickly, so that I will not call back your line. Early on, you had an open line with respect to what you wanted to say, and you highlighted the police officer and more so the commissioner. Matt, when the guns came in, the barrel was on the port, they say we've gone. Matt, the police commissioner, I understand is that they were put on the alert and that they had information, so all they had to do is to wait for the person. The police commissioner went on the air and he said that they are actually monitoring the barrel on the port and waiting for the person. How can you now tell somebody your strategy? Now, I consider that as being a sellout. Now, the Americans now take the matter into their own hands and investigating. You telling the world again that the Americans go and look for the person. Are you not putting the person to run again? Are you not putting that person on alert to run, hide from the Americans? Matt, that is probably the irresponsible behavior of the commissioner. That is why people will not give him information. And I'm sorry, it's bad enough that the Americans can have their plan and strategy, investigating a matter and probably even close to holding the person or coming on the person, and the commissioner can tell the world now that, look, the Americans are looking for you, go in hiding. Matt, thank you for the opportunity. Have a good morning.
All right, thank you very much. We'll come back to talk about 9:30 this morning there. We'll take another phone call. We're going to talk to the Muslim store in a minute. Hello, talk to me.
Matt, it's amazing what the last caller talked about his last point. But, I mean, Matt, it is so crazy. And are we on any doubt that we are on the Chavez plan, Matt? Is Roosevelt scared not following that same plan? Where will it lead us? Will we be like Venezuela in a few years? Even if we don't have the resources, maybe that will be accelerated. Good morning.
Good morning, too. Hello, talk to me.
Mr. Pelty.
Yes, sir, quickly.
Very interesting. So thank you for reminding us what the Venezuelan ambassador said when the leader of the opposition was suggesting that we help Venezuela. He's going to come and say the same thing loud, and they're going to blame the U.S. Matt, I told you, Roosevelt Skerrit and his foreign minister, Francine Barron, when they're talking about the OAS has lost its relevance, Matt, they start talking about sovereignty. Because there was, by the OAS, there was a resolution, Matt, some firm decision to maybe intervene in that madness in Venezuela. All of a sudden, those little dictators in the Caribbean, they start to get crazy. How you can come and try? Because guess what? You want to come and make an example of Venezuela, so then my people will learn that you're going to knock me down. That is where we are heading, and that is where we are to, Matt. It is going to intensify. And Roosevelt Skerrit of all people and Francine Barron, I mean, they're wallowing in the good time. Who wants any disruption or interruption or an intervention so close to Dominica and having to do with the whole thing of the Alba and all of them? Matt, watch these Caribbean leaders. We're talking about Skerrit. But it's just because the people in the Caribbean or the Caribbean countries, the people are more astute, much more intelligent, much more political astute, I would want to say too. I would want to add. So they know that people will not allow them to be as abusive as Roosevelt Skerrit is doing. So all of a sudden, the OAS has lost its relevance and talking about sovereignty in a small country, in a small world of today. You mean to tell me you can do what you want and claim sovereignty? It's just a matter of them. They're going to catch them, you know, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll talk again sometime about 9:30. We have a stop coming up in a few minutes. Stick around.
For the first time ever, the OECS Cycling Championship will be held in Dominica. Come Sunday, July 2nd, the cyclists from Anguilla, Antigua, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, British Virgin Islands, and the host country, Dominica, will ride their way into the record books, calling all Dominicans along their cycling route to come out and witness for yourself. Share, support, and encourage Team Dominica, including Bram Sanders and Daddy Chess, Mills, Garon, and the boys, as they bend Kokosh punch around the corner, waiting their option to navigate and negotiate the road as they compete with bubbling speed on Sunday, July 2nd. Starting from the Porterville Savannah all the way to the entrance of the Caprettes National Park and back to Porterville Savannah. It's a 60-mile circuit race and it's Laughly Show, a race of fitness and endurance. Come out and support the first ever OECS organized cycling championships in Dominica, sponsored by the Dominica Olympic Committee, Fine Foods Inc., Sprinkle Trading, S-Smart, Anchorage Hotel, Burton and Company, Ronald Charles Chambers, Marpin Flow, DBS, Kyrie Q, and Vibes FM, Government of Dominica, official championship water, Lupia Spring Water.
Caribbean Hype 2017, Saturday, July 1st, your SoCal passport, and it all kicks off at 8 p.m. It's sponsored by Flow, the most advanced telecommunication network in Dominica, Kyrie FM, Popito Water, Johnny Walker, Smurda, Eldorado Rum, Adam Sounds, and Gator Sound. Caribbean, real beer, it's a Caribbean, your SoCal passport. Every girl when I put up them jamming, all woman when I reach out them jamming bumpers for jamming.
Making your water safe to drink during and after floods and storms. Water for drinking and domestic use should be free from all disease-causing bacteria and poisonous chemicals. However, during heavy rains, floods, and landslides, the water supply may become contaminated. There are 3 ways to ensure that water used for drinking and domestic purpose is safe. They are proper storage, boiling, and chlorination. That is, adding ordinary household bleach to your water. Let's look at proper storage of water. Store water in clean containers.
Madame report is actually watching it in the pharmacy where Harry did with Sinclair if you want to support and learning. It is how cafe Episa and not well my life.
I told you we're going to stop for 2 or 3 minutes here at the Muslim store. Brad, the doctor, is on the line at this time to give us all the exciting news. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. And how are you doing right on this lovely Thursday morning?
Yeah, lovely and rainy Thursday morning, huh?
Yeah, it's very cool when it's raining. I love the rain, man.
I know. We need the rain. The farmers are happy.
Yes, and speaking of need, if you're in need of something for your kitchen or for your home, then the best place to be shopping at on the 30th of June will be at the Muslim store from 6 a.m. people. I am telling you, 6 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. We will be leaving that outside. So on all your refrigerators, your stoves, your washing machines, your deep freezers, your chillers, your televisions, you will be receiving on some items 15% off, or no VAT, or VAT off, or we might give you more than the usual, you know. So you just need to come in early enough, because stocks are limited at the Muslim store. When I tell you stocks are limited, I'm not just saying things just for you to come at the store. You need to come down as early as possible to get your hands on a 32-inch TV, LED TV, which was once $1,100, which will be $699.95. If you think this is not good enough, or you think I'm joking, come down at the store tomorrow morning, and we'll give you even better deals on a 40-inch, you know, which was once $2,050, but you will be receiving for less than $1,000. You know, you can get a Hitachi brand television, a smart television, which was once $1,008, but you'll be receiving for less than $1,000 free. So all you need to do is come down at the Muslim store. Matt, I'm talking about televisions all the way up to 55 inches. Where on the island can you get a television, LED, HDI components for $1,999.95? I mean, where on the island can you get a 55-inch television? For most of us, we don't even know what a 55-inch television looks like. But you need to come down at the Muslim store to find out what a 55-inch television looks like. If you think I'm just talking about televisions, then come down. There's a lot of us who enjoy cooking, who enjoy baking, and we need a stove, a guaranteed stove that will last you for years to come at the Muslim store. You can be receiving a brand new West Point stove for little money, Matt. You just need to come down. And good thing at the Muslim store, we are opening at 6 and closing at 8:30. So we're opening early enough so VAT cannot enter the store. So you need to enter the store before 8:30 in order for you not to purchase items with VAT.
Okay, my brother Brad, I'm sure a lot of Dominicans will turn up for this big deal there on Friday.
Yes, I am guaranteeing you, we have had it for the past times, and to be honest, it has been wonderful, and we're expecting tomorrow to be even greater than before. You know, so, and not just, I mean, I have my section, which is from 6 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. But not just home appliances and these things, but also, we also have a great discount from 12 o'clock to 2:30 on jewelry. All jewelry, you'll be receiving a 50% discount on your jewelry. So you need to come down at the store. And I'm telling you for real, if you do not come down, then you will be losing out. You do not want to be losing out. You do not want to be one of those people that missed out on the grand sale from the Muslim store. You need to come down 6 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. to get your home appliances. From 12 o'clock to 2:30, you will be getting your 50% off on all jewelry. And it's a bright day, and I'd like to say hello to my good friend, Gut. You know how it is.
All right, Brad, at the Muslim store. Check it out tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to have a stop with our good friends there from Fine Food, Save a Lot, right after this.
Storm Tip, brought to you by Save a Lot. A storm can come at any time during the hurricane season. Being prepared is very important. Prepare for a storm by stocking up on emergency supplies, including canned and other non-perishable foods, lots of water, batteries, lanterns, flashlights, storage containers, and resealable bags, first aid kit, and battery-operated radio to stay up to date on the latest information. Also remember to have your mobile phones fully charged and have all emergency numbers handy. Visit Save-A-Lot Supermarket and HBC Department, and we will get you fully ready for any storm.
The Benz and Stime Assault Development Committee, in collaboration with the Benz Village Council, present the Feast of St. Peter's. Yes, you heard right. The Feast of St. Peter's. Activities will run from Wednesday, June 28th to Sunday, July 2nd. The activity moves into higher gear on Friday night, where Soca meets Bouillon. On the main stage will be the True Rhythm Band, the First Serenade, Dr. Miguel Labadie, and taking you straight to an easy daybreak, the People's Band, the Bouillon Band. Girl! What are you doing by yourself? Yeah, more nice. Triplicate Band, baby. A small contribution of only $10 will be collected on entrance. The activity continues on Saturday night from 9 p.m. It's all about Big People Party with DJ Matthew, Midnight Groovers, Ecstasy Band, and the Caribbean's #1 party band, the Swinging Stars. All this powered by the Big Bad Club DVD. And on Sunday, we all are going to church to give thanks and praise, followed by the blessing of the boats. Later that afternoon, 12 football teams will gather on the Anzime playing field to compete for the St. Peter's Soca Roma Champion. Music will be provided by DJ Flip the Boss and Selector Urban. Right after the football competition, we are going back in time with the Bouillon Pioneers, original members of the WCK band, Rock, Cornell and Wackers. You don't want to miss this. Hello, it's another Feast of St. Peter's in the villages of Benz, Ansdime and Asolda. Get involved. Bigging up the sponsors one time, the government of Dominica, Honorable Rosalind Paul, Kubuli, 5 Foot Inc., DigiPlay, Double O Constructions, Dominica Football Association, George Trucking and Excavation Services, Ministry of Trade, and DASPA.
First time ever, the OECS Cycling Championship will be held in Dominica. Come Sunday, July 2nd, the cyclists from Anguilla, Antigua, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, British Virgin Islands, and the host country, Dominica, will ride their way into the record books, calling all Dominicans along their cycling route to come out and witness for yourself. Share, support, and encourage Team Dominica, including Bram Sanders and Daddy Chess, Mills, Garon, and the boys, as they bang Kukush, punch around the corner, waiting their option to navigate and negotiate the road as they compete with Bobby and Speed on Sunday, July 2nd. Starting from the Porterville Savannah, all the way to the entrance of the Caprettes National Park and back to Porterville Savannah. It's a 60-mile circuit race and it's lovely show. A race of fitness and endurance. Come out and support the first ever OECS organized cycling championships in Dominica. Sponsored by the Dominica Olympic Committee, Fine Foods Inc., Springfield Trading, S-Smart, Anchorage Hotel, Burton and Company, Ronald Charles Chambers, Swap and Flow, DVS, Kyrie Q, and Vibes FM. Government of Dominica. Official championship water, Lupia Spring Water.
I work hard for my money, so it means a lot. I gotta buy things and don't wanna spend a lot. My dollar goes far to save a lot. My dollar goes far to save a lot. Where shopping makes a better deal, where prices set your dollar bill. I work hard for my money, so it means a lot. I gotta buy things and don't wanna spend a lot. My dollar goes far to save a lot. My dollar goes far to save a lot. Win cash with Roberts. Roberts makes you win. Win cash with Roberts. You can win, win, win. Purchase any 445-gram Roberts product and get a chance to win $200 cash. Just buy Dove, Glow Spread, Mellow Cream, Sunflower, or the new Sunflower Olive Oil Spread, and you get a chance to win. 2 winners chosen every fortnight. Simply write your contact details at the back of your receipt and drop in the box provided at participating supermarkets island-wide. So shop now and win cash with Robert.
Good morning, good morning. We have a full team in the house this morning. We have the big man himself. How you doing, Lennon?
Not bad, man. How you doing this?
Oh, you thought I was talking about the other guy?
Have I talking about the other guy?
No.
That big man himself. Good morning to you, man. Good morning to all many listeners.
How are you doing?
Better.
I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, Mr.
Doing much better?
Huh?
Doing much better. Okay, good. Rosemary, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Matt. Good morning to Dominica. Good morning to all of our listeners in the region, in the diaspora. We know that you're tuned in.
And Cecil, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning
Cecil
to you.
Schillenfeld, disaster consultant.
Good morning to your listeners and good morning to Lennon and Rosemary. on the program today.
So, Rosemary, what is the exciting news to Save-A-Lot this morning?
Well, Matt, the excited news is that we are happy that we have Mr. Shillingford with us each and every Thursday.
Yes.
As you know, Fine Foods Group of Company, we are happy that we can let Dominica know what's happening about the weather and to keep them in touch and to let them know that everything that they need is available at their favorite store, Save-A-Lot. And I will just go through a list because I know Cecil and Lennon have to talk also. But just to tell them that they need to be prepared. And do not get prepared in the last minute. You need to get prepared now. Now is the time that you need to come to Save-A-Lot and get your lanterns. We have the mini lanterns and we ensure that we give you the best in terms that we bring in Coleman. Coleman has its name on the market in terms of being the best you can think of. And we want to tell you that these lanterns, they are actually very, very, very bright. 105 lumens to 150 lumens. And just to let you know that when you buy these mini lanterns, that they come with their batteries. And the batteries that they come in with, like a package, they are Duracell. So in other words, we are saying to you that you are getting the best out of purchasing your mini lanterns at Save-A-Lot. You are spending one money. Also, if you want to buy your flashlights, we want to tell you that we are well stocked with flashlights, and we have flashlights at different prices. So we have a lower end to a higher end. So we have flashlight to suit everybody's budget in Dominica. And also to let you know that we are well stocked with batteries. But in terms of storm, you need much more than that. You need to be prepared. You need to have what it takes in terms of getting an injury, somebody falling sick. You actually need to ensure that you have your hydrogen peroxide. You need to have triple antibiotic, very essential. You need to have your iodine. You need to have plasters. You need to have gloves. You need to have gauze. And you need to ensure that you have rubbing alcohol and also cotton. Ensure that you have that. You can make your own first aid kits. You buy a plastic container and you ensure that this is available. Also remember, during a storm, when you're going to a shelter, you need to go well prepared. So you have to make preparation for going in shelters. Ensure that you have a 1/2-inch foam that can wrap small enough. Ensure that you have some extra sheets. Ensure that you have a mattress cover. Ensure that you have pillow protectors, and they are all vinyl, which means that they can take water. And during the storm, you need to actually protect what you have worked hard to earn: your dining room set, your music sets, your televisions, as I say, your bed. So you need to ensure that you have covers for them. And what possibly can you get to cover these things to keep them safe? Save-A-Lot is well stocked with your clear plastic that you can purchase by yards, or you can buy the tappy, what we call the printed plastic. And this will go a long way in ensuring that everything that you have in the house is covered and well protected.
All right. So I was asking a question earlier because a lot of people have been asking about the huge coolers.
Yes, Matt, I was talking to you about the huge coolers. We know during the storm you need to store enough clean water, and that's where your huge cooler, your 10-gallon Rubbermaid cooler, will come into good use, because you can make enough ice and then store your ice in that cooler. You can also use that cooler to put in all your meats, your fish, and everything that you have in the refrigerator that would at least want to last for 48 hours. So that's why it is important to invest in that 10-gallon cooler. Or if you want to purchase a square one, we have a square one like 48 quarts that you can also purchase. But ensure that you have that cooler, because Matthew was telling me that you need to purchase one, because you come to understand the importance of having that cooler. That's why when we come here, we are actually here to...
How big is it, Rosemary?
Matt, the 48 square cooler is very big. That also can take in a lot of meat. It can take in some water bottles, and to ensure that you have enough water. And while I am on the water bottle, remember you have to stock up enough water during a storm. And I always say to people, do not wait for the last minute to get that. And I also urge them to go to Save-A-Lot. We have buckets with covers as low as $27.95. Well, you know, people are asking for the Pixnout pail, the buckets. Go to Save-A-Lot and get your pail so you can store some clean water.
All right, thank you very much. When we come back, we'll talk a little about the hurricanes. And, of course, unless Lennon want to drop in at this time, Lennon, is there anything that you want to tell us?
No, I'm eager to hear from Cecil. I know we're getting prepared, man. We're not getting prepared. We should be prepared now.
Yeah.
I see on the news yesterday as well.
I see a lot of paraphernalia. Maybe you have some new information on the storm that we were expecting, a wave last night. When we come back after this.
Making your water safe to drink during and after floods and storms. Water for drinking and domestic use should be free from all disease-causing bacteria and poisonous chemicals. However, during heavy rains, floods and landslides, the water supply may become contaminated. There are 3 ways to ensure that water used for drinking and domestic purpose is safe. They are proper storage, boiling, and chlorination. That is, adding ordinary household bleach to your water. Let's look at proper storage of water. Store water in clean containers. Ensure that water is kept covered at all times. Do not store water in containers which were previously used to store poisonous chemicals. If you use a drum, cover with clean bag or plastic, secure tightly with rope. Boiling kills all harmful germs and bacteria. When boiling water, use a clean pot. When the water begins to boil, let it continue to boil for 3 more minutes. Allow it to cool before drinking. Always keep containers covered. Chlorination. Using household chlorine in drinking water to kill germs. Here's how it is done. To 1 gallon of water, use 8 drops of bleach. To 5 gallons of water, use half teaspoon bleach. To a 45-gallon drum, use 4 teaspoons of bleach. You may use a dropper or clean stick. Dip the stick in the bleach. Hold it over the water and allow it to drop. Stir or shake the water. Leave water to settle for 30 minutes before using. Always keep the containers closed. Water is safe for drinking 30 minutes after the bleach is added. Remember, to protect you and your family's health, ensure that water is boiled for 3 minutes after it begins to bubble. That the correct amount of bleach is added to the water. Do not exceed the specified amount. Make sure that all water stored is properly covered. Do not store water in containers which contain chemicals. Also, wash your hands with clean water and soap. Wash eating and cooking utensils with clean water and soap. Use bottled water if available. Remember, your health is your responsibility.
For more information, call 266-3469.
Storm Tip, brought to you by Save-A-Lot. A storm can come at any time during the hurricane season. Being prepared is very important. Prepare for a storm by stocking up on emergency supplies, including canned and other non-perishable foods. Lots of water, batteries, lanterns, flashlights, storage containers, and resealable bags. First aid kit and battery-operated radio to stay up to date on the latest information. Also remember to have your mobile phones fully charged and have all emergency numbers handy. Visit Save-A-Lot Supermarket and HBC Department and we will get you fully ready for any storm.
We're back, Dominica. It's already 9:17. Cecil Schillenfeld, disaster consultant, is in the house with us as he has been for the past few weeks. Tell us, Cecil Schillenfeld, because a lot of concerned citizens about the weather this morning and yesterday. We were told about a wave. What is the latest that you can tell us?
Yeah, Matt, so there's a tropical wave affecting the islands, westward moving tropical wave. And most of the weather right now is north of Dominica in terms of the rains in Guadeloupe and heading for the Leeward Islands. However, there are pockets of precipitation going all the way down to Grenada, there seem to be quite some loose precipitation, if I want to call it that way, affecting all the islands right now. But the bulk of the rainfall is over Guadeloupe and heading into the Leeward Islands. The tropical wave, a lot of the weather was really behind the tropical wave because the Met Office has been talking about that wave for the last few days. But we were expecting most of the rains to be last night into today. And from some pictures I'm seeing, we seem to have a lot of rain on the eastern seaboard. And of course, some flooding seem to be going on. But once the rains get into the higher grounds, you know, then it goes down in surge. So you have that kind of effect on the eastern seaboard right now. But it will clear up. It will clear up in a while. I mean, in a few hours. When I say in a while means a few hours, and we could see some brighter weather.
But let's look at the weekend. Anything ahead?
There is nothing that I know of coming up this weekend yet. But of course, you know, the weather is not a perfect thing. But from what I'm looking at on the radar, there doesn't seem to be too much weather at the back for the weekend. So from what I'm seeing, we may have a good weekend.
For the week, I've heard you, Cecil, keep warning Dominicans to continue to be prepared. Are they taking heed?
Well, Matt, it's, there's no way to really gauge it unless you engage people in dialogue, but it is the responsibility of the authorities to ensure that people are always in a state of readiness, especially during the hurricane season. We are now in the official part, and of course, you know, you can have these weather systems even before the start of the season and well after the season. So during these times, it's always good that people are on the alert. And the good thing about the Met Office is that they are where all the young people are. You know, I'm an old timer, so I'm not too much.
You don't look old.
I'm not too much into the social media thing, but they're on Facebook, they're on Twitter, they're on all these.
They really try to keep you informed. Huh?
Yeah, but from the disaster management standpoint, we deal with the old technology like your program and so on.
Oh, well, you go the old way, Cecil. But still reaching out to the many people. But when you say, Cecil, and then maybe you should remind them, be prepared. What do you expect them to do?
Well, Matt, the situation is that people are accustomed to, of course, once there is the announcement of a storm coming, that they have a few days. So because of that, they're a little laissez-faire in their preparedness activities. But I mean, in recent times, we've been seeing certain patterns and systems coming up in terms of tropical wave and providing us a lot more moisture, a lot more rainfall. So people have to be on their P's and Q's for that. Plus the fact that we are pretty much drenched because we've been having lots of rain. And of course, there's no more way for the waters to go, so they have to run down the waterways, you know. So that's why we're indicating to people to keep their waterways clear, keep their drains clear, ensure that they have the things they require, you know. And because one of the things we try to avoid is I know in the Caribbean, and normally when certain things are done in certain islands, of course it is copied in other islands. One of the big discussions now is whether there should be a total shutdown whenever there is a storm approaching, especially if it's going to impact certain countries, that the country goes on lockdown. Normally we sort of drag our feet and we send people home, and certain business places remain open and things continue until there is a total shutdown. But I know in one Caribbean country, because of Tropical Storm Matthew and the way it affected them, they are looking at the kind of total shutdown. But of course, you know, there are legal implications, so that has to be looked at also. Yeah.
I wonder what the discussion would be about that.
No, total shutdown wouldn't be for you, Matt. You'd have to stay on to give the people the information.
Oh, that would be for me, so that'll carry my bed in it.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think, Leonard? You think there should be?
Matt, certainly, I think preparedness is important, but
what about the businessmen who, you know?
Matt, we understand, but do you prefer make profits over people's lives, Matt? It's very important. Imagine someone like me. I remember last year driving home to load, and stones were rolling and trees were falling in the road while driving home. I mean, if I had stayed any later or till it got dark, you could well imagine what could have happened. I mean, we are lucky down here so
total
far.
shutdown. That's going to be very debatable.
Yeah, it's a matter that will be debated before any decision is taken in any of the countries. But of course, you know, you're talking about people's lives. So what is more important? Somebody
very important question.
Staying on to sell a few
extra dollars
of rice, or
buy it before. That's the debate.
And that's the concern I've had quite a while back too. And I did make the point until some people even thought maybe I was a little draconian when I indicated that there should be total shutdown, because the thing about it is a lot of the people who remain in the supermarkets, at the gas stations, they have to go home to at a certain point. So if you keep them there selling to people because these people did not make provisions, then it means that when it's time for them to go home, they are caught somewhere. You know, so I think that is something the authorities really have to take on board.
Very important
and deal with it. As I say, you know, they there is the legal implication. So certain legislations would have to be put in place for something like that.
All right, we'll come back after this, Dominica.
Are in the hurricane season. Listen to Q95 FM radio when a hurricane is approaching. This will help you create a plan of action. Continue keeping in touch with your friends and family. They will gain comfort just knowing where you are, how you are faring, and how close the storm is to you. If you are in an area that is on the outskirts of the storm, tell them. Assure them that you are all doing well. Remember, they only know what they are told on the radio, and their imagination runs wild. If you lose your telephone power, call them at least once with your cell phone to tell them you do not have a phone service and that you will call as soon as it is restored. This way, you do not have to use up your cell phone minutes, which should be saved for emergencies.
For the first time ever, the OECS Cycling Championship will be held in Dominica. Come Sunday, July 2nd, the cyclists from Anguilla, Antigua, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, British Virgin Islands, and the host country, Dominica, will ride their way into the record books, calling all Dominicans along their cycling route to come out and witness for yourself. Share, support, and encourage Team Dominica, including Bram Sanders and Daddy Chess, Mills, Garon, and the boys, as they bend push around the corner, waiting their option to navigate and negotiate the road as they compete with Bobby Speed on Sunday, July 2nd. Starting from the Porterville Savannah all the way to the entrance of the Caprettes National Park and back to Porterville Savannah. It's a 60-mile circuit race and it's lively show. A race of fitness and endurance. Come out and support the first ever OECS organized cycling championships in Dominica. Sponsored by the Dominica Olympic Committee, Fine Foods Inc., Sprinkle Trading, S-Smart, Anchorage Hotel, Burton & Company, Ronald Charles Chambers, Marp & Flow, DBS, Kyrie Q, and Vibes FM, Government of Dominica, Official Championship Water, Lupia Spring Water.
Rosemary strengthened your point there, the point being made by Cecil before the break about the importance of preparation.
Yes, Matt, I will say that early preparation is key. And Dominica is very vulnerable. We have to take into consideration of our mountain, the mountains that we have.
Terrain,
and we have 365 rivers. Plus Dominica, I think, is the land I have seen the most ravines. And as soon as rain, start falling, Matt, you know what happens to Dominica. Let me urge Dominicans, do not wait for wind, because you know water does more damage than wind itself. And this is why early preparation for the storm is key. So in other words, the people who are employed in the business places, they too have to get home to prepare for the storm. And this is why we are here, to educate the public. Do not wait on your 48 hours notice. Do not wait on the 24 hours notice to come down to get what you want for the hurricane. And this is where I'm going to call on all the shopkeepers to work with the wholesale. Fine Foods have one of the wholesales in Dominica that stock everything that you're looking for. From flour, rice, sugar, just name it. Fine Foods have that in the wholesale. And I'm certainly sure a Fine Foods truck or a van is out in the district and they have everything that you need. So stock up, because you know, remember, during the storm, you can't leave Sansova, you can't leave Fishley, you can't leave Grand Bay, you can't leave Capuchin to come to Roseau. It's true. So the shopkeepers play a major role in ensuring that the community have what it takes in preparation for a storm.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I mean, because after the event, most times you cannot get into town to go into the supermarkets or the wholesales. So it's better if the communities stock up on some of the essential things. I remember after Tropical Storm Erica, I couldn't get out from where I live for about, 4 days?
Same here.
Thursday to Monday. So, yeah. So that's a good point.
Thank you very much. And of course, we'll be back here next week. I'm going to leave the final words for Lennon this morning, just to help you get prepared.
Yeah, just want to remind all our listeners, man, it's important to prepare for the storm. Ensure you have your essentials, as Rosemary said, your hurricane kits, your mattress, whatever you need, your water. Water is very, very important, especially for children, the elderly, pets. And Matt, everything you're looking for this season is available from Save-A-Lot, HBC, or from the supermarket, and also the Fine Foods Wholesale. Rosemary, thanks for mentioning that. All the supplies you need. Man, we have brought in extra inventory. And
so you're ready?
I remember Cecil mentioning that some time ago. If you come to our warehouse, Matt, you'll see we are well stocked. I mean, I had some people visit from last week, the week before, Matt, and they said if we plan on taking over Dominica, they want to stock down the hand. Matt, but we have to be prepared. If God forbid something happens and boats can't come in for a while, we are prepared at Fine Foods, and we'd just like to remind our many shopkeepers, if you have businesses, supermarkets in the rural areas especially, try to stock up as much as you can. Water, canned goods, supplies, flour, for example, salt, sugar, those essentials, and we have it all at Fine Foods Wholesale and down at Jimmy's, so you can always come by and see what we got for this season. Matt, remember, as Rosemary said, preparation is key. That's what we're going to leave everyone with today. Preparation is key, and ensure you get prepared for this season. I mean, Matt, have you seen the images from St. Kitts? They've been battered right now. The streets are flooded. I mean, quite a few.
We don't want that here, no?
Videos are coming in, man. So, yeah. Even if a small tropical wave that just blew by, we can see some of the damage that St. Kitts is suffering right now. So, Matt, it's better to be prepared.
Thank you so much. Cecil, we'll see you next week.
Yes, see you
God willing, they say.
Yeah, and you know they haven't gotten the brunt of the
it was just a rain band. Yeah. So, boy.
Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you again next week. Thank you. All right.
Storm Tip, brought to you by Save-A-Lot. A storm can come at any time during the hurricane season. Being prepared is very important. Prepare for a storm by stocking up on emergency supplies, including canned and other non-perishable foods. Lots of water, batteries, lanterns, flashlights, storage containers, and resealable bags. First aid kit and battery-operated radio to stay up to date on the latest information. Also remember to have your mobile phones fully charged and have all emergency numbers handy. Visit Save-A-Lot Supermarket and HBC Department, and we will get you fully ready for any storm.
I work hard for my money, so it means a lot. I gotta buy things and don't wanna spend a lot.
Remember, we are in the hurricane season. Listen to Q95 FM radio when a hurricane is approaching. This will help you create a plan of action. Continue keeping in touch with your friends and family. They will gain comfort just knowing where you are, how you are faring, and how close the storm is to you. If you are in an area that is on the outskirts of the storm, tell them. Assure them that you are all doing well. Remember, they only know what they are told on the radio, and their imagination runs wild. If you lose your telephone power, call them at least once with your cell phone to tell them you do not have a phone service and that you will call as soon as it is restored. This way, you do not have to use up your cell phone minutes, which should be saved for emergencies.
Win cash with Roberts. Roberts makes you win. Win cash with Roberts. You can win. Purchase any 445-gram Roberts product and get a chance to win $200 cash. Just buy Dove, Glow Spread, Mellow Cream, Sunflower, or the new Sunflower Olive Oil Spread, and you get a chance to win. 2 winners chosen every fortnight. Simply write your contact details at the back of your receipt and drop in the box provided at participating supermarkets island-wide. So shop now and win cash with Roberts. Roberts, for the love of cooking. Local distributors, Fine Foods Inc. Caribbean Hype 2017, Saturday, July 1st, your SoCal passport. And it all kicks off at 8 p.m. It's sponsored by Flow, the most advanced telecommunication network in Dominica. Carry FM, Tropito Water, Johnny Walker, Smurf, Eldorado Rum, Adam Sounds, and Gator Sound. Caribbean, real beer, is a carrier. Your SoCal passport. Every girl when I put on them, all woman when I reach out them, jamming my passport, jamming.
Making your water safe to drink during and after floods and storms. Water for drinking and domestic use should be free from all disease-causing bacteria and poisonous chemicals. However, during heavy rains, floods and landslides, the water supply may become contaminated. There are 3 ways to ensure that water used for drinking and domestic purpose is safe. They are proper storage, boiling, and chlorination. That is, adding ordinary household bleach to your water. Let's look at proper storage of water. Store water in clean containers. Ensure that water is kept covered at all times. Do not store water in containers which were previously used to store poisonous chemicals. If you use a drum, cover with clean bag or plastic, secure tightly with rope. Boiling kills all harmful germs and bacteria. When boiling water, use a clean pot. When the water begins to boil, let it continue to boil for 3 more minutes. Allow it to cool before drinking. Always keep containers covered. Chlorination. Using household chlorine in drinking water to kill germs. Here's how it is done. To 1 gallon of water, use 8 drops of bleach. To 5 gallons of water, use half teaspoon bleach. To a 45-gallon drum, use 4 teaspoons of bleach. You may use a dropper or clean stick. Dip the stick in the bleach. Hold it over the water and allow it to drop. Stir or shake the water. Leave water to settle for 30 minutes before using. Always keep the containers closed. Water is safe for drinking 30 minutes after the bleach is added. Remember, to protect you and your family's health, ensure that water is boiled for 3 minutes after it begins to bubble. That the correct amount of bleach is added to the water. Do not exceed the specified amount. Make sure that all water stored is properly covered. Do not store water in containers which contain chemicals. Also, wash your hands with clean water and soap. Wash eating and cooking utensils with clean water.
The views expressed during this program are not necessarily those of WISE Q95 FM Radio. WISE Q95 FM Radio has not been able to independently verify the factual correctness of the allegations and statements made during this program and cannot vouch for their accuracy. Therefore, WISE Q95 FM Radio will not accept any responsibility or liability for the statements or allegations made in the court.
Earlier this week, I received this email. Meant for Mr. Rijok. Kenneth Ridjock, the famous blogger, who's been writing a number of issues, of course, on Dominica and what's going on here. The email read, Mr. Ridjock, you are a con artist, liar, and fraud. You have repeatedly published utter garbage fed to you by your elements. You are not a journalist. But you are also a coward. You have refused to accept service of the Prime Minister's and others' case against you by email. In fact, you threatened to report us to some associations. Go ahead. The process servers in Miami are saying you cannot be located and you will be dodging them. I have attached the documents again. Will you accept service via email? If yes, state expressly in your reply. The other defendants have filed a defense and we have applied to have it struck out. Will you jump off the ship or will you let them sink alone? That's what Tony Astafans is asking. So you see what his clear intention is at this time. I've gotten Mr. Ridjock, as usual, on the phone. I've not been intimidated by that. To speak to us about what's the truth in this. Mr. Ridjock, can you talk to us, please?
Good morning, Matt. How are you?
Good, good. It appears from Anthony Astafan's email that you are playing the docking game. What? Put this in perspective for us, sir.
Well, first of all, Matt, let me tell you that all of these accusations by Mr. Astafan are patently false. His whole idea is called shoot the messenger. When he doesn't like what somebody says, he doesn't dispute the truth. He just goes after the messenger. Let me start by saying, number one, Mr. Astafan is not, I repeat, not the attorney of record in that case. He's got no bloody right to make any statements about what is or is not true. If he really has some intestinal fortitude, maybe it might be nice for him to actually sign on as plaintiff's counsel in this case instead of trying to hide behind other lawyers and then making scurrilous allegations. He says I'm not a journalist. Anybody who has ever read my work knows that not only was I the financial crime consultant and journalist for WorldCheck for 5 years, I was the journalist at Complinet in the UK before that. And my journalism career goes back to my days in Vietnam when I wrote for Stars and Stripes, which was the publication of the U.S. Army. So if he wants to say that I'm not a journalist, you know, he's just totally wasting our time. All right, let's get on to the allegations. This gentleman just wants to throw all sorts of lies and untruths at me, and he's going to get a little bit more than he bargained for, because when I am served in this case, and I have not been served, when I am served in this case, I will have the ability to file counterclaims or third-party complaints. And I think that Mr. Astafan better watch himself, because he himself has made untrue statements against me, which gives rise to liability. He's saying that all those things I'm saying are untrue. Well, let's find out in the court of law what's true and what's not true. Here's the problem. No, I have not been served. Nobody has shown up at my door, period. That is exactly what the story is. Nobody has shown up at my door.
But you're not hiding, Mr. Ridjock. You're not hiding.
I am not hiding. My address is a matter of record, and anybody that wants to find me can find me. I've never been accused of ducking service. I've also never had a judgment entered against me in any libel and slander case ever in the world. And for him to say that I duck service, remember, I went to law school when Mr. Astafan was still in diapers. I know a little bit about the rules of procedure. He's saying that I should not I should be accepting service by electronic means. Well, here's the problem. He needs to come and have somebody serve me physically, because when a person is served electronically, there is no way to obtain proof of service. He may say that I've been served 40 days ago. He may try to default me. He has to physically serve me under the rules. In the East Caribbean, only by mutual consent can somebody actually be served with electronic means. For that reason, because it's open to abuse. All those statements about me being a coward, I think Mr. Astafan should know that I have a combat infantryman's badge from my service in Vietnam and Cambodia. And I don't see where he ever served in the military of any country. And as a matter of fact, I'm really wondering about how Mr. Astafan and his family actually showed up with all of their wealth in Dominica many years ago. I'd sure like to know the source of his funds, because I have questions about it. But that's neither here nor there. The answer to the question, Matt, is no, I haven't been served. I'm not ducking service. What I have been stating is the truth. And if Mr. Astafan wants to serve me, have him come on down. He lives here in the United States. He doesn't live in Dominica. You know that, right? He does not live in the United States. He lives in the United States. So this gentleman needs to put his money where his mouth is.
Mr. Rijok, what's the latest? I know you've always been following and following very closely events in Dominica. What can you tell us? So what you hearing?
Well, I'm concerned, extremely concerned about a lot of things going on in Dominica with respect to the fact that the Labor Party seems to be ramping up for the next future election. And it looks to me like it's business as usual. Let's bribe everybody. Let's give poor people money so that they can vote for Labor, even though they don't want to vote for Labor, because the government is not taking the money that's supposed to be used for uplifting the people's economy, money from the CBI program. Why are they not taking that money and creating jobs? Why are they just using the money for bribes? That's the real problem here. They're creating a socialist economy where nobody goes to work because nobody has jobs, and they're all dependent upon the government.
I know in the past, recent times, that we have heard that some banks in Dominica have problems drawing down the funds, on some funds. Do you have any new information on that?
Oh, I'm sorry, so you'll have to...
I'm saying that we had some difficulties, sir. In the past, we had a Royal Bank as a prime example of, the banks that have some issues drawing on monies from CBI. Do you have any information on that one, sir? Any latest information?
No, but you can assume that there is a criminal investigation in the United States on that subject, because remember, if somebody illegally takes CBI receipts and puts them into a bank account, and they're in dollars, and they pass through the U.S. banking system, as of course they would, that happens to be money laundering under the criminal statutes of the United States, for which there is a 20-year felony.
Well, Mr. Rijok, I'm sure you'll stay on that story as soon as you can. Let us know just what is going on as the investigations continue.
I'll be happy to, and you have a great day together with all your listeners.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Just some new information there from Mr. Rijok. According to him, he has not been served physically. Mr. Tony Astafan, that's the answer that you're looking for. Go serve Mr. Rijok. We're coming back after this.
I work hard for my money, so it means a lot. I gotta buy things and don't wanna spend a lot. My dollar goes far to save a lot. My dollar goes far to save a lot. Where shopping meets a better deal.
views expressed during this program are not necessarily those of Wise Q95 FM radio. Wise Q95 FM radio has not been able to independently verify the factual correctness of the allegations and statements made during this program and cannot vouch for their accuracy. Therefore, Wise Q95 FM radio will not accept any responsibility or liability for the statements or allegations made in the course of this program.
Remember, we are in the hurricane season. Listen to Q95 FM radio when a hurricane is approaching. This will help you create a plan of action. Continue keeping in touch with your friends and family. They will gain comfort just knowing where you are, how you are faring, and how close the storm is to you. If you are in an area that is on the outskirts of the storm, tell them. Assure them that you are all doing well. Remember, they only know what they are told on the radio, and their imagination runs wild. If you lose your telephone power, call them at least once with your cell phone to tell them you do not have a phone service and that you will call as soon as it is restored. This way, you do not have to use up your cell phone minutes, which should be saved for emergencies.
Win cash with Roberts. Roberts makes you win. Win cash with Roberts. You can win, win, win. Purchase any 445-gram Roberts product and get a chance to win $200 cash. Just buy Dove, Glow Spread, Mellow Cream, Sunflower, or the new Sunflower Olive Oil Spread, and you get a chance to win. 2 winners chosen every fortnight. Simply write your contact details at the back of your receipt and drop in the box provided at participating supermarkets island-wide. So shop now and win cash with Robert. Roberts, for the love of cooking. Local distributors, Fine Foods Inc.
Seeing some breaking news coming out of Jamaica this time, still trying to confirm, and we'll try to bring you the latest details as they become available. Hello, good morning.
Matt, can you imagine a European country in the turmoil that Venezuela is in, and some other European countries would be talking about its sovereignty, and then, and the European Union has lost its relevance and allow people to die and starve to death, like what is happening in Venezuela, Matt? Can you imagine these Caribbean leaders that they're pussyfooting and all now they want to tell the OAS, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, Matt, keep away from our domestic problems, use that domestic problems. It would be an intervention, not an invasion like Grenada. When things get out of order, these organizations were put there to intervene, Matt. No, you're saying let the people die, and you have the millions, you're not giving it to them. You're not hearing nothing about Venezuela. What you're hearing about is China, China, China. That's the new craze right now, the new fashion, the new style. Matt, I just wanted to say quickly, you see that move when these guys had the thing down Portsmouth, Matt, the last big thing that they meeting? Matt, these guys did that to try to discredit Q, because I know a personal person tell me, something with Sheridan Gregg and thing. They did that to sow discord, distrust, confusion. It's not about transmission. It's not about hearing it or being objective enough like you're doing on your radio station, allow everybody to call, because after that they're not opening DBS up to the parliamentary opposition. So they did it just to discredit Sheridan and to make people have doubts in their minds about the credibility of Q rather than the people seeing the bigger picture where it's all inclusive, because Sheridan radio station is not a workers' radio station. So when people's talking about, Q95 and go and broadcast Labour Party thing, stop with that foolishness. It's an open door policy. Everybody's welcome. It's not that if you're not red, you better have dead, or if you're not blue, you're not supposed to be in nice shoe and all them foolishness there. So really and truly, man, that OAS statement about it lost its irrelevance. Scary has taken us in Venezuela situation, and it is just going to intensify. So Dominican just say, Scary does just say what he wants when he wants it. He don't mean it. Take care, Matt.
Thank you very much. It's 9:53 is the morning time of this week. As I said, I'm just I want to even repeat it just there. Some breaking news from Jamaica. Maybe when we come back at 12 o'clock, we'll find out just what is going on. Hello, talk to me.
Matt, good morning to you and the listening post. This Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, this is a call for you, sir. Wherever you are the Prime Minister for the country for the past 17 years. Sometime back, you asked your people to call the opposition traitors. Sir, Mr. Roosevelt Skerrit, who really is the traitor? The opposition or you? You promised Chavez that you would send provision, you would send fig and coconut and whatever you would to his country. Now that Chavez has been dead, you have not kept on to the deal. Who is the traitor, Mr. Roosevelt Skerrit? No, this man there, the of the police force, the commissioner,
Mr. Cabot,
said that they are waiting on who to send down the information. Matt, let me tell you something. Sometime back in last month, some cannabis was left from Antigua to go up to the States. Immediately, they called Antigua and reported it. And immediately, the officers that were on call, they were all called and questioned. Look how long those guns are in the country. Mr. Carbon is telling us on a statement that they are waiting on the people to come to do what? Look how long this thing happened. I just feel to myself that he's just trying to cover up something because the heat is on, so he's just trying to throw some water to cover the heat. Matt, another situation which I personally encountered. The society has let us down to the fullest. Up in my area, there was a fellow who is kind of Down syndrome. And there was a guy who used to be around with us, but not knowing his character. Now, he told me that he heard that this guy goes up to the reserve and meets another guy who is just like him, and they are having that homosexual activity going on. But if he makes him rest his baby foot on him, he will never encounter himself into that action again. Matt, I am not telling you what I do not know about. When you hear me call that radio station, I know what I'm talking about. This guy told me that morning that he is going to take the guy to go over the river to get the ice for me to put in my cooler, which I told him yes, not remembering what he said. This man there went and he went with the boy and he actually went to bathe, and people, eyewitnesses, saw this Down syndrome boy in the river bathing, which is unusual. A certain time when I saw the guy came, he walking through as if, you could see when somebody is guilty of something. And then in another while, this Down syndrome boy came with his underpants. And the boy is crying, Matt, and he's showing me on the underpants. And he's showing me at the direction that look what he did. He molested him, and he's showing me wet underpants in his hand. And he told me, it is he.
But did you report that to the police?
Matt, just listen, please. He told me, he do it. The guy that is there, that is he that do it. Matt, when this Down syndrome boy went to his home, this child was taken to the Marigot Hospital, where he was treated. Matt, this child there was brutally scarred, that he had to get stitches in his anus, and he had to be taking antibiotic. Matt, this child there suffered for months with high fever, incapable of walking. The officers came. When they came to apprehend the guy, as soon as the Down syndrome boy saw him, he pointed to him and he telling them, he that do it, he that do it, he. In our presence, Matt, the teachers who were in the school saw when the fellow passed across the schoolyard, and they know to a fact, Mr. doesn't be in that area. After they take it and they do all their drama with it, they had key witnesses that they could have a solid case for this Down syndrome child. But there were officers who knew this guy, and the guy said that there were one officer who had a relationship with his sister and blah, 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 blah. Matt, nothing came out of that. When I questioned the officer, you know, the ridiculous answer he gave me, he said that the guy wasn't being taught with the, you know, they have the people of the sign language with the children. So he said that this child was never into that, so they cannot have a case because this child was in it. But the child can explain himself. There were eyewitnesses to see the child was in the river, the guy was in the river, and that just went downstream. So when people think that we are just calling radio and we do not know what is going on, oh no, so Matt, I have a situation on my hands.
But we don't have the time for this one though. Maybe later. It's 9:59. We have to wrap it up. News is coming up. But very interesting information. Please report that to welfare, if you will. Hello, talk to me. Let them investigate. 4493095. We're hearing a lot of rain coming down there in St. Kitts. There is some flooding taking place. We'll try to get some more information for you later in the program. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Storm Tip brought to you by Save-A-Lot. A storm can come at any time during the hurricane season. Being prepared is very important. Prepare for a storm by stocking up on emergency supplies, including canned and other non-perishable foods, lots of water, batteries, lanterns, flashlights, storage containers, and resealable bags, first aid kit, and battery-operated radio to stay up to date on the latest information. Also remember to have your mobile phones fully charged and have all emergency numbers handy. Visit Save-A-Lot Supermarket and HBC Department, and we will get you fully ready for any storm.
I work hard for my money, so it means a lot. I gotta buy things and don't wanna spend a lot. My dollar goes far to save a lot. My dollar goes far to save a lot. Where shopping makes a better deal, where prices set your dollar bill. I work hard for my money, so it means a lot. I gotta buy things and don't wanna spend a lot. My dollar goes far to save a lot. My dollar goes far to save a lot.
The views expressed during this program are not necessarily those of WISE-Q 95 FM radio. WISE-Q 95 FM radio has not been able to independently verify the factual correctness of the allegations and statements made during this program and cannot vouch for their accuracy. Therefore, WISE-Q 95 FM radio will not accept any responsibility or liability for the statements or allegations made in the course of this program.
For the first time ever, the OECS Cycling Championship will be held in Dominica. Come Sunday, July 2nd, the cyclists from Anguilla, Antigua, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, British Virgin Islands, and the host country, Dominica, will ride their way into the record books, calling all Dominicans along their cycling route to come out and witness for yourself. Share, support, and encourage Team Dominica, including Bram Sanders and Daddy Chess, Mills, Garon, and the boys, as they bang push punch around the corner, waiting their option to navigate and negotiate the road as they compete with Bobby and Speed on Sunday, July 2nd. Starting from the Porter's Hill Savannah all the way to the entrance of the Caprettes National Park and back to Porter's Hill Savannah. It's a 60-mile circuit race and it's Laughly Show, a race of fitness and endurance. Come out and support the first ever OECS organized cycling championships in Dominica, sponsored by the Dominica